Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today, we will learn about the explosive surprises, heartfelt reunions, and deepening suspicions set to unfold in Port Charles on Friday, October 17th. In the bustling corridors of General Hospital, Britt Westburn finds herself caught off guard in the most delightful way, her eyes lighting up as she spots an unexpected figure weaving through the familiar halls. This serendipitous encounter prompts a warm smile from the usually guarded doctor, who wastes no time in approaching with a casual yet probing question, "What brings you back to these parts?" The surprise element here hints at a connection that's both personal and intriguing, especially coming right after Britt's heartfelt chat with Lucas Jones about her long-lost best friend, Brad Cooper, who's been absent from the scene for far too long. Could this mysterious visitor be Brad himself, the once disgraced lab tech making a dramatic comeback to reclaim his place in Port Charles society? Fans have speculated for months about his potential return, imagining how his shady past might intersect with current hospital dramas, perhaps offering Britt the support she needs amid her own health battles and ethical dilemmas. Adding layers to this moment, envision Britt's mind racing with possibilities. Maybe this person holds a key to unraveling a medical mystery or even a clue about Brad's whereabouts, turning a simple hallway stroll into a pivotal plot twist that could reshape alliances at GH. Shifting to the cozy yet tense atmosphere of Alexis Davis' home, the air thickens with emotion as Molly Lansing Davis throws her arms around her newly freed father, Rick Lansing, her face beaming with unbridled joy that cuts through the shadows of his ordeal. Rick, looking disheveled and drained from weeks of captivity, manages a weary smile while Molly pulls back, her concern evident as she blurts out, "Dad, what on earth happened to you during all this time?" The reunion is raw and tear-streaked, with both father and daughter on the brink of breaking down, their bond shining brighter against the backdrop of Rick's harrowing imprisonment in Alexis' very own basement, orchestrated by forces he never saw coming. Rescued at last by the resourceful Cody Bell, Rick's escape reveals the dark underbelly of manipulation. One of his captors had been slyly texting Molly from his phone, spinning tales of a voluntary digital detox to keep her at bay, when in truth, he was battling a force haze from sleeping pills doled out relentlessly. Ava Jerome, in a shocking twist of vengeance-tied old grudges, had emptied an entire bottle over the weeks, though Rick's growing defiance led him to secretly spit them out, preserving his clarity, and just enough to aid his eventual liberation. This father-daughter moment not only highlights Molly's fierce loyalty, but also delves into themes of family resilience, as we analyze how Rick's survival instinct might propel him into seeking justice, potentially dragging Ava deeper into Port Charles' web of deceit and forcing Molly to navigate the fallout between her parents' complicated history. Over at the hospital, tension simmers between Felicia Scorpio and Elizabeth Baldwin during a charged exchange that leaves little room for pleasantries, their words laced with underlying stakes involving family and custody. Nathan West, freshly discharged from his recovery at GH, had been eyeing temporary stays either at Bobby Spencer's welcoming home or with Nina Reeves. But those plans crumbled amid Nina's shocking arrest for conspiracy in the attempted murder of Drew Kane, a crime that unfolded brazenly in front of witnesses. As the conversation heats up, Felicia brings up young James West, firmly asserting to a visibly displeased Elizabeth that Nathan has every legal and moral right to step up and care for his son if he chooses. Elizabeth's sour expression speaks volumes, suggesting a brewing conflict over co-parenting dynamics that could fracture fragile truces, especially given her own tangled history with the Scorpio family and the pressures of her nursing role. Diving deeper, this scene underscores the ripple effects of Nina's legal woes on innocent bystanders, with Felicia's protectiveness highlighting Nathan's evolution as a father post-trauma, while Elizabeth's reluctance might stem from unspoken fears of losing influence over James amid her personal instabilities. Inventing a new angle, picture Elizabeth grappling with guilt over past oversights in her own family life, prompting her to subtly sabotage Nathan's plans, which could escalate into a full-blown custody skirmish that tests loyalties across Port Charles. Deep within the strategic confines of Anna Devane's office at the Port Charles Police Department, Anna and Detective Dante Falconeri pore over the enigmatic Drew Cain shooting case, their discussions circling a persons of interest board plastered with photos and timelines that scream irregularity. Standing close to the evidence, Anna voices her unease about the suspiciously convenient timing of events, noting how alibis are starting to fray at the edges despite initial appearances. Nina Reeves, though absent from Willow Tate's side during the shooting with seemingly ironclad proof, now faces crumbling defenses that raise more questions than answers, while Carly Spencer and Michael Corinthos maintain their stories of being elsewhere, yet both had unfettered access to the Quartermain mansion and spent solitary moments at Elizabeth's house, opportunities too ripe to ignore. Is Anna beginning to question Willow's innocence in pulling the trigger, or does she suspect Michael orchestrated a frame job to shield himself from scrutiny? Alternatively, could Carly have strategically planted Edward Quartermain's gun at Elizabeth's to bolster her son's defense, weaving a web of maternal protection that blurs lines between ally and culprit? This investigative pivot offers rich analysis on trust erosion in Port Charles, where family ties clash with justice, potentially unveiling a conspiracy laced with corporate rivalries at ELQ and personal vendettas from the Cain family's turbulent past, setting the stage for explosive interrogations ahead. Far across the globe in the snowy vistas of Switzerland, where crisp alpine air carries whispers of danger, Lulu Spencer shares a poignant moment with her daughter, Charlotte Casadini, reflecting on the perils tied to reuniting with Valentine. Lulu's expression is grave as she explains to the wide-eyed Charlotte that every visit to her father at Steinmauer prison carries inherent risks, a reality underscored by recent assurances from Jack Brennan that both mother and daughter remain protected. Yet Charlotte, ever the perceptive child shaped by her Casadini lineage, harbors deep distrust toward Brennan, boldly accusing him of orchestrating Valentine's downfall and planting false evidence to ensnare him, accusations that echo fan theories about WSB corruption infiltrating family matters. This skepticism is unfounded. Recall the chaotic cafe incident where Brennan's assistant, Khalid Morrow, allegedly acted alone in firing shots at them, an event that has Lulu on high alert. Questioning loyalties in this international intrigue, expanding creatively, imagine Charlotte's intuition drawing from vivid nightmares of her father's absences, fueling her resolve to uncover Brennan's motives, which might involve hidden Casadini artifacts or long-buried secrets from Valentine's spy days, adding emotional depth to their bond and foreshadowing a mother-daughter alliance against shadowy forces. Speaking of high-stakes negotiations, Brennan's face hardens with frustration as Valentine Casadini lays down yet another demand during their tense interrogation session at Steinmauer, refusing to divulge crucial intel without concessions. Fresh from a tender, private embrace with Charlotte that briefly softened his edges, Valentine now faces renewed pressure from a WSB agent dispatched by Brennan. But he holds firm. If they truly crave the exclusive details on Caesar Faison's final, nefarious project, they'll meet his terms without hesitation. The WSB's fixation on linking the enigmatic happenings at Five Poppies Resort and Professor Henry Dalton's bizarre predicament, his brain preserved in a jar. No less to Faison's lingering legacy grows ever more urgent, especially with two of his offspring surfacing alive in such close proximity. Anna shares this wariness back in Port Charles, puzzled by the eerie synchronicity that suggests a larger resurrection plot, perhaps involving cryogenic experiments or cloned identities tied to Faison's obsession with immortality. Analyzing this thread, Valentine's leverage plays into his masterful manipulation skills, potentially bartering for full exoneration or Charlotte's safety, while inventing new elements like an encrypted Faison diary surfacing could ignite a global chase, intertwining Casadini espionage with everyday Port Charles turmoil in ways that promise season-defining revelations. Next, we will dive deep into the explosive drama surrounding Nina Reeves' unexpected arrest and how it's unraveling the fragile peace in the Corinthos family. In the bustling world of Port Charles, where secrets simmer just beneath the surface of everyday interactions. Nina had every reason to feel a spark of optimism. After months of strained tensions and heated confrontations, her daughter Willow Tate finally received a glimmer of reconciliation from Michael Corinthos, Willow's ex-husband and the devoted father to their two young children, Wiley and Amelia. Michael's decision to allow supervised visitation rights was like a long-awaited truce in a war-torn battlefield, giving Willow precious moments to rebuild bonds with the little ones she cherished so deeply. Nina, ever the protective mother with a heart full of fierce loyalty, beamed with quiet joy at the news, envisioning family gatherings filled with laughter and healing rather than the usual accusations and slammed doors. She pictured Willow cradling Amelia in her arms during playtime at the park, or reading bedtime stories to Wiley under the soft glow of a nightlight, simple joys that had been denied for far too long amid the custody battles and betrayals. Yet, this moment of tentative hope was shattered in an instant, transforming into a nightmare neither woman could have foreseen. As the dust settled from what should have been a celebratory step forward, the atmosphere in Port Charles grew thick with suspicion and urgency. Harrison Chase, the steadfast detective known for his unyielding pursuit of justice, approached Nina with a gravity that sent chills through the room. His words, "You're under arrest," hung in the air like a thunderclap, leaving Nina's features twisted in a mask of profound sorrow and utter bewilderment. The charges: conspiracy to commit murder, a grave accusation that echoed through the corridors of the police station and rippled out to shock the entire community. This wasn't just any misunderstanding. It stemmed directly from a fabricated alibi Nina had impulsively provided for Willow on the fateful night of Drew Kane's shooting. Drew, a respected figure whose political ambitions as a congressional candidate had thrust him into the spotlight, had been gunned down in a brazen attack that left Port Charles reeling. Witnesses described the scene vividly: the sharp crack of gunfire near the waterfront docks, the chaos of bystanders scattering, and Drew collapsing amid the evening fog, his shirt stained crimson as emergency sirens wailed in the distance. Willow, who had been out that night tending to personal matters, found herself under scrutiny when her whereabouts came into question, and Nina, in a panic to shield her daughter, blurted out a story of them being together at home, sharing a quiet dinner and discussing family reconciliations. But alibis built on sand crumble under pressure, and now this hastily constructed lie was resurfacing like a vengeful ghost, ensnaring both women in a web of legal peril. As they were led away in handcuffs, sharing a cold jail cell with its stark fluorescent lights and echoing drips from faulty pipes, Nina's mind raced with regret. How had her act of maternal devotion spiraled into this confinement, forcing her to confront the very isolation she had fought so hard to avoid? Nina Reeves has long been a force of nature in Port Charles, her intentions rooted in love, but often veering into chaotic territory that leaves wreckage in her wake. It's a recurring motif in her life, this compulsion to intervene where subtlety might serve better, turning potential solutions into amplified crises. Reflecting on her history, one can't ignore the parallels. Remember the time Nina orchestrated a clandestine media expose on Carly Corinthos' business dealings, intending to expose what she saw as corruption, but instead fracturing alliances and deepening family rifts, or her misguided attempts to bridge gaps between Sonny Corinthos and his estranged kin, which only fueled more paranoia and distrust. In each case, Nina's help carried the weight of her own unresolved traumas, from her years of searching for Willow after their painful separation, to the lingering scars of her own romantic entanglements that left her wary of loss. This pattern, a mere coincidence, it's woven into the fabric of her character, a blend of unyielding optimism and impulsive zeal that blinds her to the fallout. With Willow now, the stakes feel insurmountably higher because it involves innocent children caught in the crossfire. That night of Drew's shooting, as news alerts buzzed across phones and the town buzzed with fear of escalating violence tied to political intrigue, Nina didn't pause to strategize or even whisper her plan to Willow. She charged ahead, fabricating details of a cozy evening, perhaps inventing tales of baking cookies together or watching a favorite old movie to cover Willow's tracks. But practicality escaped her. Phone records and security footage would later reveal Nina had been alone at her penthouse, scrolling through news feeds and sipping tea, far from any shared alibi. The damage. Now, as whispers of conspiracy charges mount, Nina grapples with the irony that her protective instincts have caged her daughter alongside her, turning a mother's shield into a shared shackle. Faced with this dire crossroads, Nina must navigate a labyrinth of choices, each path fraught with unforeseen consequences that could redefine her relationships forever. Option 1. Full confession to the authorities, laying bare the truth that the alibi was her solo invention, born from a mother's terror that Willow might lack a defense in a town quick to judge. She could paint a vivid picture for detectives how her heart pounded as she heard about the shooting, visions of Willow being railroaded flashing before her eyes, compelling her to act without a second thought. This honesty might earn leniency, portraying Nina as a flawed but devoted parent rather than a co-conspirator, and potentially exonerating Willow by highlighting the lack of joint intent. Yet, the risk looms large. Authorities might interpret it as Nina subconsciously believing in Willow's guilt, implying she anticipated the need for a cover-up because her daughter was entangled in something sinister. Imagine the courtroom drama, prosecutors twisting her words to suggest complicity, juries eyeing Willow with renewed doubt, and the media frenzy amplifying every nuance into scandalous headlines. Alternatively, Nina could cling to the silence, maintaining the facade that the alibi was mutual and unassailable, hoping to weather the storm together. This preserves Willow's image as innocent but escalates the conspiracy narrative, especially with irrefutable proof like time-stamped videos showing Nina's solitary evening routine. From her ordering takeout alone to pacing her living room and worrying. Evidence mounts, neighbor testimonies of no visitors, Willow's own movements traced via traffic cams placing her elsewhere during the invented dinner hour. By not coming clean, Nina risks painting them as a duo plotting in shadows, perhaps even linking it to broader threats against Drew's campaign, where anonymous tips hint at corporate sabotage intertwined with personal vendettas. Whatever she chooses, the decision will echo through the Corinthos household, testing loyalties and forcing Willow to confront not just the charges, but her mother's overbearing shadow that both comforts and confines. Lurking beneath this legal turmoil, a tantalizing question: was Michael's olive branch of visitation nothing more than a cunning lure, designed to expose Willow at her most vulnerable? Michael Corinthos, the calculating heir to the Quartermain legacy with a protective streak as fierce as his father's, has never hidden his reservations about Willow's stability post their bitter divorce. In private conversations with Sonny, he voiced a steely resolve to safeguard Wiley and Amelia at all costs, declaring that trust, once shattered by Willow's hidden leukemia battle and subsequent deceptions, couldn't be rebuilt overnight. Picture the setup. Michael arranges the supervised visits at a neutral park, cameras subtly positioned to capture every interaction, all while coordinating with Chase under the guise of co-parenting goodwill. If convicted of attempted murder on a congressional candidate, a crime carrying decades behind bars, Willow's custody hopes would evaporate, aligning perfectly with Michael's whispered vow to Sonny that he'd do whatever necessary to keep the children from what he perceived as an unstable environment. Has Willow sensed the trap? Or is she too focused on reclaiming her role as mother to notice the calculated timing? The arrest unfolding right after a heartfelt playdate, with Wiley's laughter still echoing, adds a layer of heartbreak. Michael watching from afar, his expression a mix of triumph and torment, and Nina's alibi defense. It might boomerang spectacularly, coming across as an admission that even she doubts Willow's innocence, fueling Michael's narrative that his ex is capable of desperate acts, perhaps driven by resentment over lost family ties or external pressures from Port Charles' underbelly. As the plot thickens, fans speculate wildly. Could this lead to explosive family showdown, with Sonny intervening to question Michael's methods, or Drew himself, recovering in the hospital, piecing together clues that point to an inside job unrelated to Willow? The layers of deception run deep, promising more twists that will keep Port Charles on the edge of their seats.